So I have started recording the session now so that everyone can access the online reports later on. So very welcome to week 4. We have been progressing quite rapidly. The last 3 weeks was quite insightful. If you have been with me so far, and as I can understand, most of you have been very connected and involved into the discussion, so I really appreciate your involvement. So this week we are going through a new topic, and our topic this week is understanding business strategy. So as we have embarked into the discussion of strategy, there will be various types of strategy we will be discussing, and we will find that the term strategy has been used in different ways at different levels. So today I'm going to talk about business strategy. So I will tell you the difference between what is business strategy and what is corporate strategy. And then we'll again also use some tools, because in every class you have seen there are some specific tools that are really useful to be able to understand those various topics. Because in week 2 we talked about external analysis, where we looked into some tools like pestle analysis. Then we looked into 5 forces theory. Last week we talked about VRIO framework. We talked about SWOT analysis. In this week as well, we will also talk about some other tools that are used for doing the business level or crafting business level strategy. So let me just start by sharing my screen. Okay, so we are in week 4. That's the first typo. Okay, so from this week, let's try to make it as big as possible so that it is not too okay, so topic today is understanding business level strategy. What is business level strategy? And then again, we'll dive into another very useful set of theories. And this again is championed by Michael Porter, whose name will come quite frequently in our course. And then we'll look into another tool called Bowman's strategy clock. And then we'll also get to know Bcg Matrix. So these are some useful tools that I'm going to talk about while we reflect on business level strategy. And once we're done with this, we'll try to squeeze in some time for our group discussion as well. Maybe we'll not have a very detailed group discussion because I will have the quiz towards the end. So the last hour from 8:30 till 9:30, I will allocate that for our quiz. So sit tight, it's gonna be yet again another very insightful session today. So let us begin by understanding what is business strategy. So business strategy looks at how each strategic business unit attempts to achieve its mission within its chosen area of activity. Which product should be developed, what approach should be taken to gain a competitive advantage, and which markets to enter. And as you can see in this pyramid, this is how the strategy actually cascades down from the top to the bottom. So it starts with corporate strategy, then business strategy, and then comes functional strategy. So the reason I wanted to choose business strategy first, because I wanted to give you the sense of how things work at both sides. So that's why it doesn't come in specific order, but I chose to start with business strategy at the beginning. So let's first understand the consider of strategic business unit, because in order to understand business level strategy, we need to understand the concept of strategic business unit, or also known as SBU. So we know that there are lots of different giant multinational corporations these days. And giant multinational corporations, they are very big in operation, and they have spread out into multiple different areas of business. For instance, let's say we discuss the example of maybe let's talk about Tesla. Like Tesla, we know that Tesla is a giant that is producing battery-powered automobiles. Tesla is all about battery-powered automobiles. That's how they started. But we know that slowly it is actually venturing into other areas. So now Tesla is involved into other types of businesses. Like, someone told me that Tesla is bringing a phone as well. They're getting into smartphone. They are getting into aeronautics. So that means they're sending rockets or, spaceship to Mars and Moon and things like that. So similarly, giant corporations no longer stay within one specific business. They spread out into or across multiple different businesses. And that's where the concept of strategic business unit comes in. So another example could be Amazon. You all know the brand Amazon, right? Jeff Bezos, he's the CEO of Amazon, which actually started as a book, online book selling, venture. But eventually it transformed into a massive e-commerce business. And from e-commerce, we know that Amazon has also it's spreading out into the smart technologies, into aeronautics, into many other, into networking side. So they have multiple different businesses. So we need to understand that each of these businesses will have separate strategies. Now, all of the business may not have the similar pace or similar aim. Different businesses will have different types of aim, and different businesses will need different type of strategy. That's where the concept of business level strategy comes in, because the corporate strategy is on the top, which is actually crafted by all the leaders at the top. So maybe Jeff Bezos, he's the CEO, or the CEO of Tesla. These folks, they all set up their own strategies from up top, from the top of the ladder. They craft their corporate strategy. But when it comes to the business, individual businesses, they need to have separate strategies. And that is where the concept of business level strategy comes in. So business level strategy fundamentally looks into which product should be developed. What are the areas that we should venture into? What approach should be taken to gain a competitive advantage, and which markets to enter? Now, let's just have a pause here again. And I want all of us to think about some other strategic business units. Think about some other brands that are getting into, think about some Bangladeshi brand. Okay, now let's come back to Bangladesh, just to reflect on Bangladesh and think about what are the various strategic business units they may have. Can someone give me examples of any Bangladeshi brand or like a conglomerate that has different strategic business units?
Sir, if we talk about Pathao, already these days, so Pathao has nowadays dived into several sectors. They have food systems, they have parcel systems. So, these days they are now innovating with some new ideas. Though their market strategy might be different from others, but they're one of them.
Yes, it's a good example. Okay. Thank you so much, Saida. Anyone else?
You're welcome, sir.
Sir, Beximco, they have clothing store and also they have pharmaceuticals.
Very well. Thank you so much. That's a good one.
Sir, Square. They've got
Yes.
pharmaceutical business,
Yes.
Square toiletries. And
right.
they have also ventured into like TV channels. I think they own Masranga, maybe. So
Yeah, that's
they
news
own
to me.
Masranga.
I didn't know that, but yes, that's a good one.
Masranga.
Where they've got hospital, they have pharmaceuticals.
Yeah.
They are also into FMCG as well.
Sir, Boshundhara Group.
Yes, that's a good example.
Boshundhara Group also has a DBC News. Also, they have food business and other gas business also.
That's right. Yes, like Walton. Walton, we know that Walton, they have FMCG. They are getting into new businesses. They're creating laptops. They're creating mobile phones. They're also into so many different businesses, right? See, so that's great. You all have understood the concept. So when we think about each of these brands, Square or Walton or Boshundhara Group, all of these brands, they have their corporate strategy at the top. The CEO or the MD of this organization, they craft their corporate strategy that, yes, this is how we would like to develop our strategic positioning in the Bangladesh market or overseas. But when it comes to the next level, at the business level, they need to have separate strategies. And that's where the concept of business strategy comes in. And we will see that, like, Square may be a very successful brand altogether. Maybe their pharmaceutical is doing very well, but maybe their television channel isn't that great at the moment. Maybe they're still rising. So they need different strategies, because they can't use one size fits all strategy for all of these different, strategic business units. So they need to see as each of these as separate business unit. And these are called strategic business unit, because these are all like, small business units. So they need to consider that which one has bigger market share, which has got more profitable, maybe position in the market. So that's great. I'm pleased that we all have understood what is the strategic business unit concept.
I have a question here.
Okay, so strategy and competitive advantage. Now, there's few things that we need to keep in mind. That competitive advantage exists when a firm's strategy gives it an edge in attracting the customers. It's defending against the competitive forces and convince customers, like, product and offers superior value. So good product, low price. Sometimes it could be a superior product worth paying more, and a best value product. So no matter whatever strategy your strategic business unit has, end of the day, everyone is trying to achieve a sustainable competitive advantage. So in order to gain sustainable competitive advantage, these are some of the basic things, or some of the basic principles that every business needs to follow. Now, this is where comes in Michael Porter. So Michael Porter, as we have come to know, that he is probably the seminal scholar who has championed the field of strategy. He is the most prominent and prolific author whose work is still very relevant even in today's discussion, even though these theories were discussed probably 40 years back. So Michael Porter's generic strategy is what is adopted by a majority of or we can use the same lens to analyze that how the business strategies could go or could be developed. So he says that a firm's relative position within its industry determines whether a firm's profitability is above or below the industry average. The fundamental basis of above average profitability in the long run is sustainable competitive advantage. So we might just rest on these things for a bit and then just reflect one or two things. So above or below the industry average is something that we need to keep in mind. And then there's ways to achieve that. The fundamental basis of above average profitability in the long run is sustainable competitive advantage. And there are two basic types of competitive advantage a firm can possess: low cost or differentiation. So Michael Porter, he says that a firm, if it aims to get its profitability above or below the industry average, the firm needs two different types of strategy: either being a low cost provider, so their products are at low cost, or they have significant differentiation from those that of their competitors. And that's what would determine that to what extent they're able to achieve that competitive advantage. So I'll explain that to you. When you will see the theory, you will understand. So Porter generic strategies, there are three generic strategies Porter suggests: cost leadership, differentiation, and focus. And the focus strategy has two variants: cost focus and differentiation focus. Okay, again, pause here and understand that what are these three different strategies. So Michael Porter says that there are three very generic strategies every business can adopt. Number one is cost leadership. So cost leadership is when a firm, let me see if I've got these slides there. Yeah. So I'll come back to this one later. So this is how like a matrix again about the 3 different strategies, all those generic strategies. But let me just get to each of these one, and then I'll go back to this one. So cost leadership. What is cost leadership? So cost leadership at its very simplest is that set out to be the lowest cost producer in any industry. By producing at the lowest possible cost, the manufacturer can compete on price with every other producer in the industry and earn the highest unit profits. So simply put, cost leadership is all about becoming the lowest cost provider in the market. So your only utensil or your only tool to battle with other competitors is cost. You're trying to make yourself distinct by offering the lowest cost manufacturer. So you can offer your product at the cheapest possible. Again, let's think about some products, or let's think about some brands that can offer their product and they're adopting the cost leadership approach.
Sir, Walmart.
Okay, that's definitely a good example, but not maybe very relatable, as majority of may not be able to relate unless you have shopped from Walmart. Maybe you have done some shopping from Walmart. Yeah, carry on.
I'm not sure whether it would be correct or not. But if I consider Unilever, like Unilever sells 2 types of ponds cream. One is costly and another one is, in average price. So there are 2 types of customers that they can buy, but they have the preference that those who have low budget, they can buy the, the local ponds cream from Unilever, and those who have higher preference, they can buy that high quality of product.
Yes. So, see, the main thing about cost leadership is that you always become the lowest cost producer. So some brands, despite being like, a very expensive brand or good brand, if they adopt the strategy, they lower the price of any of their product, you cannot consider that as a cost leadership. But the cost leadership strategy that you're only aimed that we would like to produce our product at the lowest possible cost, and we would like to offer the product at the lowest possible price. And that's how.
Sir, what about Sunsilk shampoo?
So you need to make that comparison across the same line. If you're considering Sunsilk, so Sunsilk is a brand of, if I'm not wrong, it's a product of. What's the brand that's selling Sunsilk shampoo? Unilever. So we need to make that comparison across the same line. So whether Unilever or maybe Square or there, which one is the lowest? We need to compare in regards to the same line, and then we'll be able to understand which one is the one. Because I could use some of the Australian brands because I've got that's probably my freshest memory from there. Because in Australia there are some brands like only have 3-4 major brands, and one of the brand is actually known to be the cheapest because they sell the cheapest product, and that's known as Kmart. So Kmart is actually where we get to buy everything at the lowest possible price. And they always guarantee the lowest possible price. And they have got a price bid guarantee. They say that if you buy, or if you can find this product, even at a cheaper price than what we sell, we will give you a discount, or there's a price, back guarantee, and they give such guarantees. So since our market is quite fragmented, we don't have only 2-3 brands, and we don't have lots of control. There are lots of brands. Even when you want to buy shampoo, there are lots of local brands, international brands. So there's not a lot of market control. But the Western market, they are very, very strictly controlled.
Toyota is the I think it's the cost leader in the market in the car industry.
What's that again? Say again.
I think it's Toyota.
Toyota
Toyota is the cost leadership and cheapest car provider in the whole.
Okay, that's a good example. Yes. In the automobile industry, if we see compared to other brands, Toyota probably would be a standout in terms of its price and quality. So they definitely want to be cost leader. Now, there are other brands actually which are still trying with their price, like Kia and Hyundai. These brands are also quite cheap, and their cars are also quite cheap compared to Toyota. That may not be the case in Bangladesh, but in other countries, Kia, no one would buy a Kia because they have the lowest cost, but they do have good car as well. But yes, their strategies become the lowest cost. BMW would never do that. Mercedes would never do that. Or Lexus. Lexus is a brand of Toyota. But other brands, they don't do that. Their strategy is different. But if we consider Toyota, yeah, Toyota could be a good example because they want to compete with others with cost.
Sir, the Nogod, they have claimed charges, cash out charges 11.49, and the market standard charges is 18.50. So they bring it as a cost leadership because they are taken as minimum charge among all other competitors.
Yes, very good. Really very good one, Mohsina. Thank you so much. Yes, so see, this is what the cost leadership strategy is, that first you need to decide whom are you competing against, then perform a value analysis to determine why customers value the product, what are the key features that have to be matched, and which product attributes could be dropped or reduced. Understand your own cost and cost drivers, and then finally try to make a product of comparable quality for a lower cost. This may involve a full analysis of the value chain. So in the Western world, there are lots of airlines which actually are the airfare is comparatively very cheap. Like Virgin Airlines is quite cheap compared to other airlines. And what they do, they drop their prices compared to the other brands. And their aim is to, gather money. Like for extra baggage, they charge separate money. If you want in-flight, any meal, they will charge you separate money. If you'd like to have, if you'd like to book your seat in advance, they will charge you extra money. So they made all of these as value-added services, and they've dropped the fare compared to others. And that could also be an example of cost leadership. So the main goal of cost leadership is that you're trying to reduce your cost. You compare that what you are going to compete against, and then do a value analysis that, how can you offer slightly better value than others, and also do a bit of price engineering, that how can you lower the cost so that you can offer the product at a comparatively cheaper price. Now, next comes, okay, so with low cost provider strategies, that, there are a few other things like make achievement of meaningful lower cost than rivals. The theme of firm strategy include features and services in product offering that buyers consider essential. Find approaches to achieve a low cost advantage in ways difficult for rivals to copy or match. Low cost leadership means low overall cost, not just low manufacturing or production cost. So these are some of the steps that could be adopted in order to become a low cost provider. So each of these strategies have some advantages and some disadvantages, and we need to consider those. What are the advantages of low cost? If you want to be a low cost manufacturer, a low or cost leadership strategy. So first of all, better margins through lower cost, because you can sell a lot more quantity. So your margin could be a lot higher compared to your competitors. You have the ability to undercut competitors' price, thus reducing competitive rivalry, because then you will obviously be chosen by a large number of consumers due to your cost. Low cost acts as a barrier to entry by deterring new entrants, because you have brought your price so low that new entrants are not being able to get into the market. So we see this strategy played a lot in the telecom industry in Bangladesh. Like, you know, in the telecoms industry, major brands, they're trying a lot to become the cost leader. So how can they offer the best package with the, you know, the best value with the cheapest price? Low prices make substitute less attractive. Better margins give more scope to absorb pressure from powerful buyers and suppliers, and low costs give a platform for expansion, both gaining market share and moving into new markets, because it's easy. When you've got the lowest possible cost, it's easy to gain into market share. And that's the benefit we see, that lots of Chinese smartphone manufacturing brands, they have very quickly got into the smartphone industry, and they got a large market share within a very short period of time. When big giants like Apple and Samsung, they have been really battling with each other with tooth and nail, while on the other side, these low-cost Chinese phone manufacturers, they've been able to get into the smartphone because their strategy is cost leadership. So you see all of these, like, you know, brands like Huawei, or, you know, I don't know, maybe Oppo, or, you know, all of these brands that you see, they really offer good phone, good quality phone, but the prices is by far the cheapest compared to a regular, or, like, you know, the standard smartphone. Okay. Pitfalls of low-cost strategies, or disadvantages, we might say, in other words. So sometimes if you're being overly aggressive in cutting price, so sometimes you know that your only way that consumers will buy your product is that you have to be the lowest cost provider. Low-cost methods are easily imitated by rivals. So when rivals would understand that, okay, you're playing only with the cost, someone could always come into the play, and they could also offer even a lower price than what you're offering. And that's why there's a fierce battle among Chinese smartphone manufacturers, like, you know, new brands emerging every now and day. If you look into the smartphone, you go to the, like, you know, in a shopping mall, you'll find there are lots of different, like, you know, cheap brand smartphone, and many others are coming with similar phones with similar features, and they're offering even the lower price than other competitors. Becoming too fixated on reducing costs and ignoring buyer interest in additional features, declining buyer sensitivity to price, changes in how the product is used. Technological breakthroughs open up cost reductions for rivals. So overall, since you're focusing too much on the price, you tend to forget that the market is expanding, and buyers, they want more features. So they're happy to pay some extra money for that extra, you know, extra price or extra value that they get. But you're too much fixated on lowering the cost. So, you know, you clearly don't have any more, opportunity to expand or do some innovation. Although that's something that many of the brands are able to do, but that may be a big challenge. And then you will also have declining buyer sensitivity to price as well, because, you know, the buyers will always consider you as the cheapest. And sometimes we associate low cost as low quality. There's like a common customer perception. We always consider that low cost means low quality. And that could be a damaging reputation for your brand, because you would always be seen as a cheap brand with not so great quality product with low price. So your market positioning will always be like that. And that's a risk for you, because in the long run, survival may be difficult. Next strategy is differentiation strategy. Let's understand what is differentiation strategy. So differentiation is another strategy that Michael Porter said could well be adopted by many brands, which are really adopting. So differentiation strategy, if we see simply put, it says that incorporate differentiating features that cause buyers to prefer firm's product or service over brands of rivals. Find ways to differentiate that create value for buyers and are not easily matched or cheaply copied by rivals. And then finally, keeping the cost of achieving differentiation below the higher price that can be charged. So again, pause and reflection. What is differentiation? So differentiation is all about incorporating differentiating features that customers can easily differentiate your brand compared to others. Think about examples. When it comes to the automobile, we tend to see a lot of the time that brands like Toyota, while cost leadership is one of their strategy, but they also try a bit of differentiation strategy as well. Sometimes they have, in some countries, they do have like, a luxury brand like Lexus. Lexus is a brand by Toyota. So that's an approach towards differentiation. They're trying to differentiate themselves. And we've seen that Lexus cars are a bit pricey compared to regular Toyota, like Exio or Premio or these brands. Lexus is a little high end with the price, with the quality, with the features. Similarly, like, brands like BMW, like Mercedes, they have lots of variations. They have SUV, they have like, within the, like, M series, they have X series, they have like, sports model, they have, lots of different, like, brands, so they're simply trying to allure the customer with their differentiation strategy. Their aim is to become a product that has different choices. Like in the telecom industry, we see that cost leadership was something that was played by brands for a long time. So nowadays, every brand, they're also trying to do a bit of differentiation strategy, because everyone knew that the traditional product or offering would be the same. Everyone knows that telecom operators, they will only provide telecom service, right? So now they're trying to differentiate themselves with different strategies. Like, they're offering some value-added services, like, you can pay your bill, or, you can get some SME loans, or you can get, like, whatnot, like, different features, like, health service or health insurance, something like that. So these are clearly some reflection of differentiation strategy. So you're trying to find ways that create value for buyers. And most importantly, it's not easily matched or cheaply copied by rivals, because in cost leadership strategy, anyone can easily copy your strategy. But in differentiation, you're always trying to add different value in your product in a way that will be really difficult for competitors to match. So let's try to analyze that differentiation strategy and see some examples. So Microsoft, these are probably old examples, but, maybe still relevant some way. So multiple features, this is, we see Microsoft product, they have like, different operating system. Within their operating system, if you see, they have Microsoft, for networking, they have Office. Vista is no longer like, visible. Probably this is a very old example, but, they've got everything. So in the operating system space, they have lots of different choices. In iPhone, they have lots of different features. They're bringing every now and then, they're bringing like new versions. So they know that, only way they can survive is because cost leadership is never a strategy that Apple would play. So their always strategy is to become, differentiation. How can they make their phone different than all other competitors? Wide selection of one-stop shopping, Amazon. So in Amazon, you can go get ebook, you can get, like household product, you can get like, electronic equipment. There's so many different, if you browse Amazon's website, you'll be amazed to see what are the new businesses that they're getting into. Superior service, like, FedEx, spare parts. So these are some examples of different brands in different industries. Prestige and distinctiveness, Rolex watch. Why would someone buy a watch that would cost them maybe $10,000? Well, it's differentiation. Like they have some unique value attached to the Rolex watch. There's prestige, they have some features which are quite impossible by their competitors to replicate. Reliability of the product, quality manufacture, cost leadership. So the differentiation strategy could be adopted in different style. And these are all some examples of different types of differentiation themes. So you just need to choose one of these themes when you want to compete with your competitors. In Bangladesh, let's think about Bangladesh again. Can we think about any other products which are, or any other brands that are playing with the differentiation strategy?
Sir, in that case, I think we can consider Brack University, as they have a Sabar campus where the undergraduate students stay for 1 semester, which is known as STARK. So I think it can be considered as a differentiation strategy.
Yeah, good one. That's a good one. So we'll look into the universities. All the universities, they're trying to do something different than others, right? So the BS2, probably North South and Brack University, they're always trying to offer something different experience to the students, whether in the form of advanced curriculum, whether in the forms of some extracurricular activities, whether in the form of research. There are lots of different initiatives taken by these universities. So that's a good one. Thanks, Shudipto.
Welcome,
Okay.
sir.
So in order to sustain the differentiation, there are a few things that needs to be kept in mind. Because most appealing approaches to differentiation are those harder for rivals to match or imitate. So for differentiation, if you'd like to become a strategy or having a strategy of differentiation, you just need to keep in mind that you have to have some differentiation strategy that will be hard for your rivals to imitate. Because if it's something your rivals can easily imitate, then you are still at risk of higher competition, because then that's going to be easy for your competitors to come up with like a Me Too strategy and then, offer something almost similar. Buyers will find most appealing. So you have to really have something that is appealing to the buyers. Otherwise, why would they pay that extra money? Like in Brack University, when you study in Brack University, if you don't get the flavor of almost, or you get the flavor of like, similar course curriculum or something as you would have received from any other university down the road, why would you come to Brack University? So maybe Brack has the unique value attached to it. It has its brand reputation. And of course, it has the advance and the excellence of teaching and learning and things like that. So that's another reason that will help you to sustain. And sometimes it could be possible with new product innovation. You think about some technical superiority. If you're in the technical space, think about the product quality and reliability, and then obviously comprehensive customer service. So you just need to intertwine all of this together. Otherwise, it's going to be very hard to sustain your differentiation strategy. Obviously, every strategy has some pitfalls or some downside, and you need to keep that into consideration as well, because differentiation strategy could also lead to some problems. And the problems are appealing product features are easily copied by rivals. So when you come up with some appealing product strategies, well, guess what? New entrants will easily copy that. Your rivals can easily copy that. And you cannot play with that, because cost sometimes is difficult to imitate. Because if you're the lowest cost producer or provider in the market, that's not easy for others to imitate, because they need to do lots of price engineering. But for differentiation, everyone can do that if they have the capacity. Buyers see little value, unique product attributes of product. Sometimes you may have brought some really great features, but buyers aren't convinced that this is unique enough for them. Then you are still at risk, because you're only offering something with a high value, with high price. Buyers can see that, unfortunately. So that means you will struggle to get market share. Overspending on efforts to differentiate the product offering, thus eroding profitability. Well, sometimes, you're spending too much on your research and innovation, adding more features. So that's lots of cost. You need to do some heavy marketing with all of these. And well, that will be risky because you're overspending into all of these things. So that will potentially lead you to incur more cost and eventually not being able to retrieve the cost through profitable sales. Over differentiating such that product features exceed buyers' needs. Well, sometimes you may be doing some over engineering with your differentiation that buyers don't even need that much. They don't even need that much of differentiation in their product. All they want is a simple product. And sometimes that could also backfire as well because buyers don't want that much. For telecom, maybe think about example in telecom, lots of telecom operators, they simply want, like we as mobile phone users, we simply want, uninterrupted connectivity, like, call service. But if you do not have your uninterrupted call or reception or network, and you're providing me health facility, and you can pay bills, and you can, get this and that, you can do shopping. Well, I don't need those. All I need is the basic. So, you're trying to over differentiating, and lost in that is your actual product. So you have to keep in mind that you should not over differentiate, that the buyers would not see many value. So these are some pitfalls or some disadvantages of differentiation strategy. Okay, and the last one, according to Michael Porter, is focus strategies or niche strategy. This is another interesting one. Are you guys really enjoying or understanding what I'm saying? Because I've been talking for a long time, so just a quick brain break. Is this making sense to you, what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
That's good. So just to pause a little bit and reflecting back. So we're talking about business level strategy, and Michael Porter, he said that there are 3 generic strategies that brands can adopt. And he actually offered these strategies probably, as I mentioned, 40 years back, but still today it's very relevant. First one, we talked about cost leadership. Second one, we talked about differentiation. And third one is called focus strategy, or niche strategy is also another synonym we can use. So what is focus strategy? So focus strategy is concentrating your attention on a narrow piece of the total market. Serve niche buyers better than rivals. Choose a market niche where buyers have distinctive preferences, special requirements, or unique needs. Develop unique capabilities to serve needs of target buyer segment. Okay, again, pause. Think about examples. Okay, so in Bangladesh, although I'm not quite familiar what happened in the last 10 years picture, we know there are lots of super shops, right? We know Agora is a super shop, right? And we know Prince Bazaar is another super shop where we get to buy things like that. Now,
Mina Bazaar.
What's that? Say again?
Mina Bazaar.
Mina Bazaar, yes. Now, can we compare Mina Bazaar and Agora? Which one would be like, they're different, right? In terms of the pricing, in terms of quality, right? And then there's another brand because, I was thinking to buy some products for my daughter. She's 7 years old, so she's been missing lots of products or food that she used to have in Australia. So there's another brand. Someone told me it's called Unimart. Has anyone heard about Unimart?
Yes, sir.
Yes. So I actually came to know about Unimart. Is actually located in Gulshan, And it's actually a brand that's targets towards very high value customers. Like, their focus is like very high value, like, people like, who lives in Gulshan and Borni, all the, the people with heavy pocket, and they only keep some of the international brands. They don't keep lots of local brands. So they mostly keep their international brand or, product that are high value, very good quality. And they know that, yes, there are some customers, they are willing to pay the premium price. And that's why they keep that. So maybe we can consider that Unimart could be an example of a focus strategy, niche strategy. So what that involves concentrating your attention on a narrow piece of total market. Because Unimart, they know that, yes, not everyone is going to buy from our store as compared to Mina Bazar or as compared to Agora, but they only concentrate on specific market. Choose a market niche where buyers have distinctive preferences, special requirements, or unique needs, and develop some unique capabilities to serve needs of target buyer. So these are some examples. Let me just give me some more examples. I would like to hear from you. Give me some more examples.
Sir, BMW car.
Sir, Pepsi Black.
Yeah. These are good examples. Yes.
Sir, Pepsi Black and Pepsi Black was introduced as a part of the focus strategy of customer segments who are preferring healthy beverages.
Yes.
And these products are focused on niche market of customers who are environmentally conscious and want to adopt a greener products. So Pepsi Black.
Sir.
Also, sir, Diet Coke.
Okay, that's a good example as well. Any other examples?
Sir, I think Saga.
Go ahead.
Sir, I can think of McDonald's. When they launched in India, they probably realized that lots of Indians are vegetarian, and they came up with a burger specifically made for those segments of customers. I mean, they came up with a burger which doesn't contain meat. So probably it could be an example.
Yeah, that's a very nice example, Liam. Thank you so much. So McDonald's, when they launched in the Indian market, they found that their beef burger weren't selling that well. And McDonald's obviously has been a brand that is successful in every other country. But despite that, they weren't successful in the Indian market. And they were scratching their head, like, what has happened? Why aren't we selling our products well? And they found that beef is obviously like a sacred animal in India. People, they worship like cows. So obviously, it's a religious thing. So that's why they need to rethink. And they offered something very specific, like, shrimp burger and lots of different menu, which is not something that you will find in other countries. So that was like a focus strategy that they just had to concentrate onto that specific market. So I guess this gives us a good understanding of what is a focus strategy. In the automobile sector, we see that, yes, BMW is probably still a bit of differentiation because they come with lots of different, types of features. But if we consider some very exclusive brands like Ferrari, Lamborghini, like, these are like Bugatti, these are very high value, expensive car. And they know that only the people who are billionaires, they are the one, or millionaires, they're the one who can afford to buy like a car like Bugatti or Ferrari or like, Lamborghini and whatnot. These are supercar and not everyone is going to buy, but they have a very focused strategies because they want to only be known as a very, very high value premium. And the quality of those cars obviously is much better compared to like a Toyota car or even a BMW car.
Sir?
Yeah.
Okay, so there is a community named Wonder Women, which actually arranges tours and trips for only women. So can it be an example for niche strategies?
Yes, that's a good example. So it's only for women because their target is only women. And yes, they are not offering this to the wider or the mass market, only the women segment. So that could be also an example of niche strategies.
Okay.
Sir.
Cloth just only for the pregnant women. I think it's also a niche strategy.
Okay, yes. If you're only targeting any product towards pregnant women, obviously that is, you have a very focus and you're serving like a niche market. So that is an example of niche strategy.
Sir, do you think paragliding in Cox's Bazar will be an example of niche marketing, niche strategy?
Well, they're not saying who is playing that strategy. You have to come up with a brand or someone who's doing that, because we know that's just like a product or service, but who is offering that? That is something, because paragliding, as far as I know, that this is not something offered by any recognized brand, rather than like, local, like, people with their local, like, resources, they're offering this.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
This is a kind of local brand, or it is not that much popular because there is no international affiliation.
Yeah.
But
So
in 2 points, they are offering the paragliding.
Yeah. See, we probably need to put a bigger lens here rather than like, small local businesses, because we are talking about strategic business unit. We're talking about very large brands which may have, and we haven't spoken about corporate strategy yet. That is something we'll talk about in our next class. So brands, they have their separate corporate strategies, but for their strategic business unit, which is at the next level, they adopt either of these strategies, either cost leadership, either differentiation, or either focus or niche strategies. So this is something that only relates at a business level. Like a large business, they have different, like, different types of strategic business unit, and they're the one who are actually adopting these strategies. But then again, Michael Porter says that these are generic strategies that could be related to every other type of business. So approaches, some approaches to defining a niche, because when you want to focus, you need to have some approach. Sometimes you can just offer the geographic uniqueness. So that's probably what Sudipto is mentioning, like, offering the geographic uniqueness, because paragliding is only possible in Cox's Bazar. You can't offer paragliding in Dhaka. Like, that's not something, a product, no one in Dhaka would do paragliding, because there's no space here, or there's no, like, this is not something that is possible here. You can think about specialized requirements in using the product or service. So maybe, like, when you're offering that product, you have some specific need for a specific group of people. Like, women, you're offering that travel only to the working or the corporate women who are busy. They don't have time to book their holidays. So you are offering this only for the busy women or for the pregnant women. You're offering a product especially for the pregnant women. Special product attributes appealing only to niche buyers. Some niche buyers who are only willing to pay that extra premium price, and not everyone is willing to pay that premium price. The business class flight, not everyone would fly to the business class, right? Because only the people who are going abroad on a business tour, they're the one who will pay the business class price in the airlines. Not everyone is going to pay that. So you need to approach what are your definition of niche. What is that niche that you're going to offer? More examples. Animal Planet and History Channel, special interest cable TV programs. Animal Planet, they only provide programs related to animal. The History Channel, only for, like, history lovers. Porsche is a very, very posh brand, we know. Shannon's Insurance, that's like a brand that's like Australian brand that only offers insurance to very old and heritage, like, classic cars. So there are two approaches: achieve lower cost than rivals in serving a well-defined buyer segment, Now, in focus, however, there are two different types of focus strategies, and that is another interesting bit, because yes, we know that focus is all about serving a niche, but you can actually adopt two focus strategies. So it could be a focused cost leadership strategy, or you can have a focused differentiation strategy. So that's another thing that we need to consider, that focus strategy is not always about offering something high value. Sometimes you can also do a focused cost leadership strategy as well. So that makes it more interesting. Let me just take you to this matrix now. So this is just like, let's understand this matrix. So in this matrix, as you can see, that cost leadership strategy, differentiation strategy, these are broad and industry-wide. Differentiation strategy obviously comes with some product uniqueness, and cost leadership strategy obviously with low cost. This is the industry-wide perspective, but sometimes you can narrow your scope and you can have some focus strategy. Sometimes you can offer at a low cost. Sometimes you can focus strategy with some different attributes of your product. So niche strategy or focus strategy is not always offering high value product. It could also looking into very small segment of market and only offering them something at a lowest possible cost as well, or something at a different feature as well. So this is another complex matrix. We just need to compare that whether we are offering this at an industry-wide scale, or we're just offering this at the scale of any specific market or local, or a narrow segment that we need to consider. All right, 7:36. That's the time now. Okay. We still have few things to cover. Is we were just looking at this and this course. Now, I will not actually go through a lot of these. These are some examples. I'll share the slides with you just for the sake of time. There's a video on this. I've shared that link on the box. Maybe it's still not there. I haven't activated this one probably, or yes, I may have. But I'll just very briefly tell you about two different things, and then I'm going to get a pause, like a break, and after the break we will do some now we'll go straight to the exam, because I know you've got the quiz, so we'll go straight to that. So let's just have a quick look into a couple of tools, other tools that we can also use or discuss to analyze the business strategy. So just to wrap up, that Michael Porter's strategy, 3 different strategy. Number 1 was cost leadership, number 2 was differentiation, and number 3 was focus. The focus strategy could be low cost or a differentiation focus strategy as well. All right, so these are the 3 main strategies of Michael Porter. Now, another expert, and his last name is Bowman, and he offered another idea. So this is like a new theory as opposed to Michael Porter's theory, because we need to see alternative theories. We need to understand alternative conceptualization and not just only one. So that's why I thought it's really important to give you some perspective regarding Bowman's strategy clock. So here's another tool that is quite interesting. So Bowman, he says that the strategy could be divided into a clock. And according to his clock, as you can see, it starts from number 1. It's an anti-clockwise. It's a clockwise, but it starts from the left side. And he says that number 1 starts with low price, low added value. So that's one type of business. Then comes number 2, where your perceived value is at the middle. Your price is between low to high. So here you have the price is perceived added value, it's medium. Then you have your hybrid mix where your price is high, but your quality could be low. Then comes your differentiation. Then comes focus differentiation. And then comes 6 and 7, which is strategies destined for ultimate failure. Sometimes some brands, they just, probably consider their like too high ambitious or two different strategies, which is not very successful, and that's a complete failure. But essentially, it still has those three elements. Price and differentiation are the two opposing scale, like scale X and Y. If we look into from the geometric point of view, price and differentiation are the two differentiating factor. And comparing with that, whether you've got a low price or high differentiation, so you just have to measure the strategy in regards to that. Sometimes your price is low, and then in the middle, in between, which is medium, then it could be like in a hybrid of, your price is a bit high and your quality may not be that high. So that is simply, I'm not going through too much detail into this one, because considering I just need to just present something, another important one, and I would probably put more focus onto this one. So let me just go to this one, and this one is like, there's an examples of 1, 2, 3, how, this is like, discussed. So it eventually boils down to the same Michael Porter's principle of like, one being the lowest cost or the cost leadership, or also known as no frills, like, the cheapest. Then comes low price. Then comes hybrid strategy, a mix of like differentiation and low price. And then comes the rest of it, like differentiation and focus differentiation. So again, not super important. I would not spend too much time on it, because this is largely based on Michael Porter's generic strategies. But I wanted to very quickly talk about one strategy or one tool that is known as Bcg Matrix. I could actually take 1 3-hour class on this one if we start talking about this one, but Bcg Matrix is something that you should definitely know when you're talking about strategic business units. So this is probably one of the most useful or seminal theories that was offered in 1968 by Boston Consulting Group, a very reputed business consultancy organization in US. And they shared this growth share matrix, which is still today is very relevant. So according to Boston Consulting Matrix, or Bcg Matrix, which is also known as the growth share matrix, according to this, you can measure your strategic business units. Let's say you have lots of different business units. So you need to measure their performance in terms of the market growth or market share. And depending on that, you can categorize your businesses into these 4 different categories. All right. So some of your businesses are known as star. So star would be significant amount of investment should be made in star. So high growth, high share. Because your star businesses are the one that gives you high growth and high share. So they're the one who is giving you lots of growth, and like, market share is very high. Then you have high growth and low share. These are question marks. Some businesses, your growth is very high, but your market share is not that much still now. So there's a question mark. Should we invest more into this one or not? Then you have your cash cows. This is known as your cash cows. So cash cow is your low growth and high share. Your market share for this strategic business unit is very high, but your growth is very slow. But still, it's giving you lots of money because you've got a highest amount of market share in the market. And then the last category of your strategic business units will be the dogs. So the dogs are those that are low growth and low share product or low share strategic business unit. So you really need to consider that Are you going to liquidate this, or should you just get rid of the dogs because they are not giving you that much money? So why is this relevant? Can someone tell me? Because I know a lot of what I'm saying might sound Chinese to you if you're just listening to this for the first time, but still, did anyone just got any sense of what I just discussed?
So I think it's more of investing and knowing where to put your money. In case you're deciding on the investment options, so this matrix can guide you exactly in which quadrant you can invest your money so that you can reap maybe something profitable, something of the sort.
Yes, very well reflected, Namfuka. Thank you so much. So it is a decision-making matrix that which out of these 4 categories your current strategic business units fall under, and then where should you invest more money into? So you have your high, like a star, they have great potential. Their market growth is very high. They have, like, market share is also very high. They're your star performers. These strategic business units, they are your star. And let's consider, maybe let's just put Apple, like, if we consider Apple as a brand, we might consider iPhones, probably they are here. Like, they've got the highest market share. They have got the highest, probably, growth rate as well, iPhones. But there are some other brands where they have some question marks. Maybe Apple TV isn't that popular because no one is, like, if you still consider the business of, like, online streaming business, Apple TV is not that as popular as Netflix or some other brands. So maybe Netflix is, so maybe Apple TV is not that low. So there's a question mark. Should we still continue the Apple TV business? Yes or no? There might be some businesses that they would consider as their cash cows. Maybe their electronic, like, products like laptop, that could still be considered as, like, cash cow, because a lot of the people, they're still, especially in the Western world, you'll see that majority of the people, they're still using Mac computers, and it's only due to its like, security, its reliability as compared to the Windows system. I'm giving this at a smaller scale, but we just need to probably expand our lens at a much bigger level, because we will be talking about the corporates and big giant corporates, their, like, level. We have to consider this, but I'm just giving you a relatable example. So that's probably, and then finally, the underdog, maybe some products of Apple which is not that popular at all, although that's not reality, because most of the products are doing very high. But still, we have to consider that, do we have any business which are really underdog, and we should probably get rid of this. So you just need to use Bcg Matrix for planning our strategic business unit. So I guess that gives us a good perspective regarding what is business level strategy and what are the various types of strategy, and also the decision-making matrix as well. The Bowman strategy clock, not super important, because this is still like a different demonstration of same Michael Porter's, like, generic strategies, but rather in a different way, just in a format of clock. Okay, time for a quick break. Okay, let's take 10 minutes break now. And once we come back, we will just reflect back on what we have discussed quickly as a group, as a big group, or maybe as a small group, and then we will